So, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan, and today we're going to do something, well, that I've been hinting for a while, but I've not been able to tell you about. We're going to have an interview with some of the people behind Realms of Ruin. So we got Sandro Sammarco, the principal designer. I believe that was the title. Yes, sorry. Yep. I'm nervous, as you can tell. And we've also got Gavin Thorpe. You guys know him from many Black Library books. So how are you guys doing?
Good, thanks.
Very, very well, thank you.
So I'm not too sure when exactly this video is going to come out, but I guess we can talk about the game a lot more. How are you guys feeling now that release is getting close?
I'm feeling very excited and obviously very nervous, but it's all come together. So I'm really happy.
Cool.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I think people are going to enjoy it.
I've been having fun playing already and preparing a lot of videos. It's been a panic because I want to do so many things at the same time, and it's like there's only so many hours in the day. But we're going to jump right in because obviously we don't have too much time. So let's jump in with a question that a lot of people are curious about. What led to the decision of a Warhammer Age of Sigmar game? Naturally, this is a setting that hasn't really been explored so much within video games. So kind of just want to get into you guys' heads about it.
Well, from our point of view at Frontier, we've got a really good working relationship with Games Workshop. We've worked previously with them on Chaos Gate, Demon Hunters, fantastic game. A game so good we bought the company. It was a bit of serendipity after that, in that we had an RTS that we were starting up, a real-time strategy game, and we were hunting around for a great IP to tie it to. And Games Workshop, clearly, they're quite involved in getting Age of Sigmar in front of people. I think it's doing really well now, and so it was just a great bit of good luck that both those things came together. So yeah, it's just one of those things that it was a good mix. Tabletop games and RTS is a good mixes in general.
Yeah, honestly, it does quite well from what I've been able to play, and it's quite nice because Age of Sigmar does deserve a little bit more love in the limelight, I guess.
I think so. What about you, Gav?
Yeah. I think it's for me because I go all the way back to like Shadow of the Horned Rat and all that kind of stuff. So I see this as the next natural successor of all of those great RTS campaigns and games that have been, so it's really nice to see one for Age of Sigmar and it kind of continuing that legacy.
And that's fantastic. The fact that Shadow of the Horned Rat, that's close to my heart. I love that game. That was a fantastic game.
I did the White Dwarf advert for it.
Awesome.
That's a real nice throwback, honestly. Yeah. But before we jump into the faction specific stuff, you set the game around the Realm of Beasts. Was that more to link up with what Games Workshop are currently doing story wise, or just because you guys really like that realm in particular?
It was with the current edition of Age of Sigmar being based centrally, the laws located around Realm of Beasts. Yeah, it made sense. The fact of the matter is, all of the realms are awesome, right? So there is no bad call. There is no one realm that's better than the other. So it was just more of a case of, well, let's make sure we're current.
The cat's trying to eat the cable. Sorry.
From the Realm of Beasts.
Exactly. Right.
Definitely destruction.
Definitely. So let's talk about the factions. Let's jump in with the Stormcast, right? So it's fairly obvious why they were kind of picked. They are a bit of the poster boys, but did you guys mull over any other possible factions, or was this centered already for the Stormcast for you guys?
It was always. We were always going to feature the Stormcast Eternals. They are the poster children for good reason. They're an awesome and very unique faction. That's what I love about Age of Sigmar myself, is that it's got a lot of new kind of flavors in it from other fantasy genres that it's here and it's not anywhere else. So yeah, we're always going to use them. And also and I'm sure Gav, you could talk to this. That although they are kind of Herculean. Strong men and women, and they're all superheroes. They are people, and so they are to that extent. They're relatable. They can have problems. In our story, they're problems that you can kind of relate to as a human being.
Yeah, I think so. The fact that they're all they're literally all heroes in their own right already before they even became Stormcast. and then they get turned into this thing, and the reforging and stuff. The themes around the Stormcast are really cool to touch on, I think. And and so within the context of the story, actually, the Stormcast, as well as being obviously the sort of front and center imagery of Age of Sigmar, they actually touched a lot of the themes about the cosmology of it, and the how the realms interact, and a lot of the metaphysics as well. So they're actually quite a nice lodestone for a lot of that storytelling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the fact there's always an element of melancholy for myself about them, because they're heroes, but there's never enough of them, and they're always giving so much. That they're literally giving they don't even get to die, right? They don't even get to die in peace. They're just kind of snatched back with a little bit of humanity, flipped away each time, which is that's I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, honestly, that's a pretty good explanation on how they are lore-wise too. So going through their roster, because obviously the Stormcast have quite a bit of units, and not everything was implemented, obviously, to keep things fair with the other factions. Was it difficult, picking the specific troops?
Yeah, it was really difficult, but not because, basically for the opposite reason of there wasn't much to choose on. There was so much. They're one of, I think I'm probably right in saying, they're one of the largest factions, and so we had to use kind of metrics of what roles they were going to fulfill, and how, like you say, how well they're going to balance against the other factions. Because as an RTS, we're not. This is an homage to Age of Sigmar, but it's not the same. It's not the tabletop game. It is a real-time strategy game. It's all. There's no randomness in it, no dice in it. It's all about we have to pick roles, and then we have to adjudicate this unit is better than that unit, or this unit is worse. So we how well they fit in, but also you've got things like silhouettes, making sure that there was enough differentiation visually, because obviously the Stormcast, being an army that's well regimented. From a distance, that's a lot of armored warriors all in similar armor. So making sure that you can actually look at each unit and go, I know what this unit is, and then obviously the rule of cool. Stormdrake Guard, I'm looking at you. Who doesn't want an armored knight on a dragon? It's just cool. So we wanted to make sure that every faction has those standout units that you go, yep, that's really cool.
Yeah, rule of cool is so important, especially I've been loving them, playing them myself. I gravitate a little bit more to the Kruleboyz, but I think it's just I've always kind of liked the Greenskins a little bit more myself.
The Kruleboyz, they're great. They're great in their own regards, and a lot of that is thanks to Gav, because the things that they say are as equally as important as the things that how they look and what they do. And I still find myself giggling a lot of the time at the Kruleboyz. The Kruleboyz speech. They've got some bangers, some really good lines in there that I can't help repeating every time I hear them.
I think so. I think that's a little bit of an edge. Again, in the same way the Stormcast explores certain things, the Kruleboyz have got a slight of an edge over, say, like Iron Jaws or Oryx or something like that. They're not, because they're a little bit more sideways, a little bit more, in some ways a little bit more vicious, a little bit more, but also a little bit easier to project some personality onto them as well. So individually, I think. So yeah, we had a lot of fun. Developing the main characters in particular, and particularly when we're working with the actors, which is probably one of the best experiences of my life was at the rehearsals, and just seeing them develop. Again, all the actors did a great job, but again, something as inhuman as Oryx, which and there's been various fictional like prose and things, but actually seeing them animated and seeing the voices for them and things is again it's like it's a defining moment. The Realms of Ruin is kind of setting a lot of this will be the image of these things in the minds of a lot of people from here on in. So there's a lot of responsibility to kind of nail it. But the Kruleboyz, I say, they give you they get to a point where they write themselves again. It's very much their agendas are pretty straightforward, but actually that you can layer on some extra sort of like infighting and conflict and stuff, which made them a really good foil for the main story with the Stormcast, who are generally of one mind, one purpose, and that friction is just slightly different. It's more in how they do things rather than what they're doing.
Honestly, yeah, that's cool. I mean, I think that the strength of any greenskin faction in every Warhammer setting has just been that they're so able to be out there more than anyone else, in a sense.
Yeah, they don't have inhibitions in the same way that the humanoids, the other humans have inhibitions, and it lets you play with like the kind of the very worst excesses of human personality and get away with it. But it's important that I think Gav did a fantastic job in making sure that they are in some ways classic cardboard cutout villains, but there is some depth to these characters. They do have agendas, and they're as Gav says, they're not all trying to do exactly the same thing. That there is variation among them, but you just get it's got this veneer of quite despicable nastiness that kind of drapes over it all and grounds them as, yeah, this is what Orruks. Again, it's like, as you say, Gav, this is what Orruks are if they're real, and it's entertaining, but it's also quite frightening.
Yeah,
that visualization, that realization of them.
And any protagonist generally is only as good as the antagonist they're up against. So for Sigrid and Iden and Demetrius and that little triumvirate, there's an opposite pairing essentially that the two story the story works off on both sides. So that yes, and particularly again in the wider context, if we want people to buy into supporting getting into the mindset of those factions, because this story goes through the single player campaign stuff, but people who get to play as Orruks, we want them to feel like they know why they want to play as Kruleboyz. We didn't want it just to be everything from the viewpoint of the Stormcast.
That's a really good point. Is that you get to see it from their side. You kind of get to invest a little bit in what they're up to.
You don't want to over associate.
I mean, if that might speak more about the player than the characters.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. So let's move on to the next faction, the Nighthaunt. See, I quite like them. It's one of the first factions that I played in AOS. Again, why did you guys go for the Nighthaunt instead of, say, well, there's a few factions at this point.
All the Grand Alliances. Ossiarchs and the Vampire Cats. For us, it was not a no-brainer, but the Nighthaunt they are absolutely Age of Sigmar. That's the only place they exist. And they're a really interesting take. I think one of our head character artists, he loves them. He calls them the ghosts in blankets. Basically, having a kind of a wholly spectral force. It's just very unique, and they're really cool. And we got to have a dude who's half ghost, half boat. And you just don't get that in any other faction. So a kind of river Styx boatman pirate ghost boat thing. He's killing people with an oar. That's like that. That's fantastic. But yeah, and also as a faction, they represent for us a nice, interesting change in what the faction's shtick is. So whereas as a counterpoint, the Stormcast they're hardy, they're resilient, they're quite versatile, but they're very expensive. They're very kind of elite units. The Nighthaunts are kind of they're a bit more brittle, but they're faster, and there's more of them, and they get bonuses when they mob together. So it just generates different play styles. And that was very important to us to make sure that the factions weren't, they share core similarities for balancing, but that they do hopefully players will see they play very differently.
I felt like all the
cool characters.
Yeah, no, definitely. I felt like all the factions have been quite different in terms of playstyle, which is really, really nice, because a lot of RTS games that come out, usually they all feel too similar, and it just doesn't really allow for different types of playstyle. Especially, I think it's a bit more obvious that it needs to be done with Warhammer, where everyone is different. Even if they're in the same Grand Alliance, there's always different feels.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. It was not an easy task, because fundamentally we're taking units that are based around a probability mechanic. It's on the tabletop game. It's loads of dice rolls, and there are probabilities that you're kind of stacking one way or another. And so we had to kind of find the units which lent as much into the shtick of what the faction is. So because we couldn't rely on those kind of probabilities to help us out. It's why for the Kruleboyz they're a little bit more. They've got some traps. They're a little bit heavier on stealth. One of their base units just gets stealth, right? They can just go invisible or hide. They're bolt boys, and that makes them it makes them atrociously dangerous, especially in groups. Whereas the Nighthaunts, it's all about looking into the lore and how they work as this kind of wave of undead, like rolling over you. So they get lots of mob bonuses when they group together. They got lots of wave of terror effects that basically take units that are quite brittle and individually quite weak and just buff them up, so that as an enemy you need to stamp down on the Nighthaunt. But it's hard because they're quick. They're all over the place. So that was the intent anyway.
Cool. Well, this one's the one that I'm most curious about, actually. The fourth and final faction, Disciples of Tzeentch. A lot of developers have this love for like Nurgle instead. So seeing the Disciples of Tzeentch for me was like, oh wow, that's something different for once. What led to that decision? You know?
Right. Well, okay. So first of all, cards on table. The ruinous powers are my favourite thing about pretty much every Games Workshop product. I think they are, again, they're wholly in those games and nowhere else, inimitable. And I love them all, right? So I love all of the factions. I think Nurgle's a fantastic faction. But for Tzeentch, actually, in terms of storytelling possibilities, the story that we evolved, they just worked. They gave us all the tools we needed to make sure that we had a hopefully a very interesting and on brand, like, on lore story, as well as the fact that they're awesome, right? But like I say, all the factions are awesome, and getting to introduce a Lord of Change in an RTS, it was a lot of fun. Basically, he's a big boy. He takes a lot to bring down, but he does mean he ends up a bit like a damage magnet. Because when you summoned him, everyone's like, "Oh my god, I've got to kill the Lord of Change because he's nasty." But yeah, from a story point of view, it afforded us some nice possibilities.
Yeah, I mean, Tzeentch in many ways are actually, in storytelling terms, are quite malleable because, ambition, magic, change, those themes can be explored in many different ways. Compared to, say, Khorne and Nurgle in particular, and also the excessive Slaash again is a very subtle one to try and get right. So Tzeentch, gives you quite a few different storytelling, quite a broad storytelling toolkit that you can draw on in terms of character motivations and things, because everyone has their ambitions, everyone wants to be getting something in a story, and the idea of manipulating that or Tzeentch encapsulating those ideas and then turning them on their head was something that was pretty much was really useful to have, basically, as we were constructing the story.
It's about plots and plots and plots with Tzeentch, right? I love the fact that Tzeentch plots against itself. Right? It's so it doesn't care for the outcome, because as I'm reliably informed, it's always according to plan, no matter what happens. So. Yeah, it was good too, but it was good to really focus in on a faction which, it is present elsewhere, but maybe it hasn't had as much love as it could have. So it's good to kind of get that out there.
Yeah, and as a first contact kind of example of chaos, actually, as one of the most visually chaotic and crazy sort of the fact that they're one of the least understandable actually helps in that regard, then, because they are very like I said, they're quite enigmatic in many ways and arcane and convoluted. So actually, you go, well, yeah, welcome to chaos.
I mean, that works really well. I'm a big Chaos fan myself. I'm not sure if it can be seen on the green screen. I've got the Chaos card.
God's approve.
I've got a mark of Slaash down too. I'm a big fan of Slaash. But anything Chaos-wise for me is like, yeah, man, the more the better. But when it comes to writing a narrative for a video game based in a setting as massive as Warhammer, what type of work goes into it, especially since you're already taking an established IP, but writing in stuff to make a separate story in a sense?
Right. So for us, what we did a few things. So first of all, we came up with a story that was quite self-encapsulated. We didn't tread too much on any obvious canon things, because that way lies madness to some degree. We wanted to make sure we could tell a story in of itself, and also let us control some themes that make it hopefully very understandable for players. But then we just layer it. It was like you're dipping it into the world of Age of Sigmar, and you're basically going, okay, so there are good guys and there are bad guys, and they're fighting over something, but then it's the lore tells you, well, what are they fighting over? Why are they doing these things? And that's how hopefully it stays very true to the lore, and that's why I've got wonderful Gav here, who basically kept us on the straight and narrow by yeah. I remember in at least one of the rehearsals saying, this guy that's saying this thing, that's your voice, that's not the guy's voice. You've got to get the guy's voice, so you got to make it a Warhammer line, not the way you speak it. And so that's why I think it's come out really great, is because we've got Gav's immense experience and talent to know what the things are that would be important in this universe.
I think, yeah, I know, and Age of Sigmar carries on that general Warhammerness of once you go down certain routes, the characters, the setting suggests how things should be done. You don't really want to use the word logic, but there is a reality there that says, with how death works, or how magic works, or how these, or how Orruks think, or whatever. Which because of that weight of stuff, actually, once you get a story moving, then how that would happen in Warhammer is there in the material. You just have to kind of tease it out. You have to just think, actually, this is how this would, this is what needs to happen, but they would think about it like this, or this is how this thing is kind of like executed in a Warhammery sort of way.
And that's how Gav explains it. Like, it's really simple, but it takes someone like you, Gav, that's got the experience and craft skills to actually do that. So I had such a great time working. Well, I think we all did. I think everyone,
it was a great
everyone involved had a great time working on the story. It was just a lot of fun, and it's something a little bit new for Frontier. We've spared no expense. There's a lot of full cinematics in there. They tell hopefully a very compelling story that is steeped in the lore of Age of Sigmar.
That's awesome. Honestly, I've been really enjoying myself. It's something that I feel like a lot of people have been wanting for a while, like a big style Age of Sigmar game like this. It kind of reminds me, the multiplayer aspect, what gives me this feeling of like the Comstop scene that we used to have with Dawn of War 2. So I know a lot of people are going to be really into that, because it feels competitive, but you're still getting all the pretty sights. You're getting to see your miniatures down there. I know some people are going to use that as an excuse not to paint their miniatures because they've already got the game. Why do they need to paint?
But the game does have that. Yeah, the game does have this the scene editor that lets you craft
Absolutely.
giant dioramas, and it's really cool. Basically, again, I'm personally very grateful that we had the chance to work with folk like Gav and Games Workshop, because a lot of the heavy lifting's just done for you. You're going, oh, we need a unit that's that's really tanky and powerful, and it describes Stormcast. Oh, Annihilators, boom, done. They look great. Just get them in there. And obviously the Frontier team's incredibly talented animators and VFX and audio and design, all the rest of it. Bring it to life so that you look at it and it's just a joy. It's just a joy to see.
Hey guys, Future Nathan here. Unfortunately, as you can imagine, the interview was cut short, mostly because the developers are ramping up for the release of this game. We were only given around 20-minute time slot. We did go over a little bit over time, which was really nice of the community team to allow us a little bit more wiggle room. But super happy with everything. It was absolutely amazing to be able to talk to Sandro and Gavin Thorpe also, getting into a little bit of the mind of how things were going to work for this game, why people were picking certain factions over others, and so on. This was super cool. Hopefully it won't be the last time, as I do have a lot of high hopes for this title. We'll be able to talk about that in a review very soon. And obviously this is not going to be the only video coming out today. For those of you interested to check out a more in-depth look of this title, later on this afternoon I'll be live on twitch.tv/thegreatbookofgrudges. There's also drops available for this title too. So pop by, say hi. I'll be on around 2 hours after this video goes live. Again, a massive thanks to the lovely people at Frontier for being able to sort out this interview. I've been a massive fan of Gavin Thorpe for a while, as you guys are aware, so being able to actually speak to him was pretty interesting. But let me know what you guys think about Realms of Ruin in the comments below, and let's have a little bit of a discussion. And I'll see you all again very soon. Have a good day.